The Observer's Gambit. The Catharian scout ship Vigilant hung motionless against the backdrop of Saturn's rings, its advanced cloaking systems rendering it invisible to what its crew believed were Earth's primitive detection systems. Captain Lyra next stood at the observation deck, her iridescent scales shifting colors as she processed the data streaming in from their long-range sensors. "Another chemical rocket launch, Captain," reported her sensor officer, Tech, his tendrils twitching with barely contained disdain. "These humans are still burning fossil fuels to reach their own orbit. It's almost painful to watch." Lyra's outer eyelids narrowed as she studied the blue planet in the distance. Something about Earth didn't add up. Their civilization had progressed too quickly in some areas while remaining surprisingly stagnant in others. In just 3 centuries, they had gone from horse-drawn carriages to basic spaceflight, yet they still relied on primitive satellite technology and hadn't even established a permanent presence on their moon. "The trajectory calculations are complete, Captain," Tech continued, his voice carrying a note of confusion. "They lost another satellite during launch. That makes 3 failures in the past lunar cycle." Lyra moved closer to the holographic display, her sharp mind catching something others might miss. The failures were too consistent, too perfectly aligned with what one would expect from a struggling spacefaring race. In her centuries of observation, she had never seen a species advance so unevenly. "Run a deep scan of their lunar surface," she ordered. "Focus on the dark side." The command crew exchanged glances. They had performed this scan dozens of times before, always finding nothing but dust, rocks, and abandoned equipment from humanity's early space programs. But Lyra's instincts had saved their lives more than once, and no one questioned her orders. As the scan results began streaming in, Lyra noticed something that made her scales ripple with excitement. For a fraction of a second, there was a power signature, barely detectable, but definitely not natural. Then it vanished as if it had never existed. "Did anyone else catch that?" she asked, her inner eyelids blinking rapidly. Her crew shook their heads, but Lyra knew what she had seen. She had spent too long studying emerging civilizations to ignore such anomalies. The humans weren't struggling with their space program. They were putting on a show. Meanwhile, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains on Earth, Dr. Elena Santos watched the Catharian scout ship on displays that shouldn't have been possible with humanity's current level of technology. The quantum detection array that she had helped design could spot cloaked ships as easily as visible ones, but that was information the rest of the galaxy didn't need to know. "They're getting suspicious," noted General Marcus Chen, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic display. "That captain is sharper than the others." Elena nodded, her fingers dancing across the control surface as she adjusted the lunar camouflage systems. "The power leak was my fault. The new quantum shielding needs fine-tuning." She paused, considering their options. "We could let them see a little more, something easily dismissible." The general's expression remained neutral, but Elena caught the slight tension in his shoulders. Humanity's greatest defense had always been appearing less advanced than they were. After the first contact disasters of the 2040s, Earth had learned that showing your true capabilities only invited challenge. Better to be underestimated than overwhelmed. "No," he decided finally. "We stick to the plan. Let them think they're clever for spotting inconsistencies. The more time they spend trying to prove their theories, the more time we have to prepare." Elena understood the logic, but she couldn't help feeling that their strategy of technological sandbagging might eventually backfire. Humanity had achieved quantum manipulation, gravity control, and even limited time dilation, all while pretending to struggle with basic rocket science. The deception required constant vigilance and perfect coordination on a global scale. Back on the Vigilant, Lyra was composing her report to the Catharian High Command. Her fingers hesitated over the neural interface as she considered how to phrase her suspicions. Too strong a warning might be dismissed as paranoia. Too weak might lead to catastrophic overconfidence if the Catharian Empire decided to add Earth to their collection of protected worlds. "Send this to High Command," she finally decided. Preliminary assessment of Sol 3 indicates possible technological disparity. Recommend careful approach and continued observation. Multiple anomalies detected but unconfirmed. Request permission to establish closer monitoring position. As her message transmitted through quantum space, Lyra returned to watching the blue planet spin below. Another chemical rocket launched, its primitive propulsion system leaving a trail of exhaust visible from space. If she was right about the humans, it was the most elaborate deception she had ever encountered. If she was wrong, she was letting paranoia cloud her judgment about a primitive species barely worth the Empire's notice. On Earth, Elena watched the Catharian transmission being intercepted and decoded. She allowed herself a small smile as she read the scout captain's cautious report. Let them come closer. Let them watch more carefully. Earth's greatest defense wasn't in its hidden weapons or advanced technology. It was in convincing potential enemies that such defenses didn't exist at all. General Chen reviewed the latest intelligence updates from their quantum probes scattered throughout the solar system. 3 more alien observation posts have been detected in the past month, each believing themselves unnoticed. Humanity's mask of technological incompetence was drawing more attention, not less. How long can we keep this up? Elena asked, voicing the question that had been nagging at her for years. The general's response was interrupted by a priority alert. The quantum sensors had detected a massive energy surge at the edge of the solar system, the signature of multiple ships emerging from faster-than-light travel. It seems we're about to find out, he said grimly, activating the worldwide defense alert system. The Catharian Empire has made its decision. As klaxons began sounding in hidden bases around the world, humanity prepared to either maintain its greatest deception or reveal its true power. The next few hours would determine which path they would take, and the consequences would reshape the galaxy's understanding of Earth forever. The captain of the Vigilant watched as the Catharian battle fleet emerged from hyperspace, her scales now a deep blue of concern. She had hoped her report would encourage caution, not trigger an invasion. As she prepared to send a final warning to the fleet commander, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was about to witness either humanity's greatest defeat or the Catharian Empire's greatest mistake. The stage was set. Humanity's carefully crafted mask of technological inadequacy was about to face its greatest test, and the galaxy would never be the same. Beneath the surface, Grand Admiral Vexnor of the Catharian Empire stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, his ceremonial armor glinting under the harsh light of the bridge. The holographic display showed Earth rotating serenely, seemingly oblivious to the armada of warships now positioned at the edge of its solar system. Scout Captain Lyra's report troubles you. His second-in-command, Commander Zeth, asked quietly. It should trouble you as well, Vexnor replied, his scales shifting to a deep purple of contemplation. In 3 centuries of expansion, we've never encountered a species that progressed as unevenly as these humans. The tactical display updated, showing the latest scan of Earth's defensive capabilities, or lack thereof. A handful of primitive satellites, a few crude space stations, and a smattering of chemical rockets. Their most advanced weapons appeared to be nuclear devices that would barely scratch the paint on a Catharian corvette. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility that officially didn't exist, Dr. Elena Santos and her team monitored the Catharian fleet's every movement through quantum sensors disguised as ordinary seismic monitoring stations. The alien ship's scanning attempts were like flashlights in a dark room. Impressive, but useless if you're looking in the wrong place. They're being cautious, General Chen observed, watching the fleet's formation slowly tighten. That scout captain's report made more of an impression than we anticipated. Elena nodded, her fingers moving across the quantum interface as she fine-tuned their sensory masking fields. The real question is whether their caution will make them more or less dangerous when they finally move against us. The facility, known simply as Deep Harbor to its small staff, was one of 7 similar installations scattered strategically around the globe. Each was capable of operating independently if needed, a redundancy built from bitter experience. The first alien contact in 2040 had taught humanity the hard way that centralized defense systems were too vulnerable. Status update from Quantum Defense Grid. A young technician called out. All nodes maintaining camouflage protocols. No detection signatures above baseline. The Quantum Defense Grid was humanity's masterpiece of deception. Thousands of quantum manipulation nodes hidden in plain sight, disguised as everything from weather stations to cellular towers, each capable of warping space-time itself, but only if humanity was pushed to reveal its true capabilities. Above the Earth, Captain Lyra watched from the Vigilant as the invasion fleet settled into position. Her earlier warning had bought them time, but she knew the Grand Admiral's patience would eventually run out. The Empire hadn't become the dominant force in this sector of the galaxy by being overly cautious. Fleet-wide transmission from the Eternal Dominion, her communications officer announced. The message was brief and familiar to anyone who had witnessed a Catharian expansion campaign. To the inhabitants of Sol 3, your world has been chosen for integration into the Catharian Empire. Submit to our authority within one planetary rotation, or face the consequences of resistance. In Deep Harbor, Elena watched the translation appear on her screen and couldn't help but smile. The Catharians' arrogance was working in Earth's favor, just as it had with the 3 other alien species who had attempted invasion in the past decade. Standard response, she asked General Chen. He nodded, his expression grim but determined. Standard response. Let's see how they handle being ignored by their primitive opponents. The response they sent was carefully calculated. A series of confused and panicked transmissions between Earth's various space agencies, all discussing the strange signals they were barely able to detect. To the Catharians, it would appear that humanity was too technologically limited to even properly receive their ultimatum. On the Eternal Dominion, Grand Admiral Vexner's scales flickered with annoyance as he reviewed the intercepted Earth communications. They can't even decode our transmission properly. Are we certain these are the same humans who managed to progress from animal-drawn vehicles to spaceflight in 3 centuries? Commander Zeth brought up another holographic display, this one showing the historical progression of human technology. The data is clear, Admiral. But Captain Lyra's observations suggest there might be more to these humans than we can detect. Or, Vexnor countered, we're allowing one overcautious scout captain to delay the inevitable. Prepare the first wave. Let's see how these humans react to a proper demonstration of Catharian power. In Deep Harbor, Elena and her team watched as 500 Catharian warships broke formation and began moving toward Earth. The quantum sensors revealed every detail of their approach, from their weapon signatures to the subtle fluctuations in their shield harmonics. They're following standard Catharian invasion protocols, General Chen noted. Seems they're not quite suspicious enough to change their tactics. Elena's hands moved across her console, making final adjustments to the quantum defense grid. Each node was precisely calibrated to appear inactive while maintaining full combat readiness. Should we show them something? She asked. A few primitive defense satellites, perhaps. Some nuclear missiles. The general considered for a moment before shaking his head. No. Let them come. Sometimes the most effective deception is no deception at all. They're expecting resistance, so giving them nothing will unsettle them more than any primitive defense we could mount. As the Catharian ships approached, humanity held its breath. In hidden facilities around the world, quantum engineers stood ready. In bunkers and command centers, military leaders watched and waited. And in Deep Harbor, Elena Santos prepared to either maintain humanity's greatest deception or unleash its greatest weapons. The moment of truth was approaching, and the next few hours would determine whether humanity's strategy of technological sandbagging would prove to be its salvation or its downfall. The breaking point. The first wave of Catharian warships entered Earth's upper atmosphere with their weapons charged and shields at maximum power. They were met with nothing but silence and scattered radio transmissions that spoke of confusion and fear among Earth's population. In the Eternal Dominion, Grand Admiral Vexnor watched the tactical display with growing unease. Still no response. No defensive measures at all. "Nothing, Admiral," Commander Zeth reported. "Their primitive satellites are continuing normal operations. Their space stations remain on standard trajectories. The only notable activity is increased chatter among their civilian communication channels." From her position on the Vigilant, Captain Lyra felt her scales prickle with apprehension. The humans' complete lack of response violated everything she knew about species behavior. Even the most primitive civilizations typically attempted some form of resistance, no matter how futile. Meanwhile, in Deep Harbor, Elena and her team monitored every movement of the Catharian fleet through their quantum sensors. The alien ship's energy signatures blazed like beacons to their advanced detection systems, revealing not just their positions but their internal systems, crew distributions, and weapon configurations. "They're spreading their ships thin," Elena observed, studying the tactical overlay. "Classic intimidation pattern. They want us to see them dominating our skies." General Chen nodded, his expression thoughtful. "They're following their standard playbook. First wave moves in to demonstrate superiority. Second wave prepares for actual combat. Third wave stands ready for cleanup." He paused, checking the latest updates from other facilities. "All quantum defense nodes are reporting ready. The question is, when do we show our hand?" On the Eternal Dominion, Grand Admiral Vexnor made his decision. "Begin the demonstration. Target their largest military installations. Minimal yield weapons only. We want to convince them, not destroy them." The order went out, and across the Earth, Catharian warships began powering up their weapon systems. In military bases around the world, soldiers looked up at the alien ships with seemingly helpless fear, playing their parts perfectly in humanity's greatest deception. In Deep Harbor, Elena watched the energy signatures of the Catharian weapons reaching critical levels. "They're about to fire," she announced, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. "All quantum nodes are in position." General Chen opened a secure channel to the other defense facilities. "Remember, we want them to think their weapons are malfunctioning naturally. Nothing too obvious. Execute pattern Omega-3 on my mark." The Catharian ships fired. Brilliant beams of plasma energy lanced down from the sky, aimed at military bases, weapon stockpiles, and command centers. But something strange happened. The beams seemed to lose coherence just before impact, dissipating into harmless light shows. On the Eternal Dominion, confusion spread through the bridge. Weapon malfunction across all ships in the first wave. Commander Zeth reported, his scales shifting to a worried gray. Energy signatures show full power, but the beams are losing cohesion in Earth's atmosphere. "Impossible," Vexnor snarled. "Our weapons are designed to function in any atmospheric conditions. Launch a full barrage, maximum yield." In Deep Harbor, Elena's fingers danced across her quantum interface, coordinating with defense nodes worldwide. Each Catharian weapon burst was subtly redirected, its energy dispersed harmlessly into the quantum foam that underpinned reality itself. To the aliens, it would appear as if some natural property of Earth's atmosphere was interfering with their technology. Captain Lyra watched from the Vigilant, her suspicions growing stronger with each failed attack. Analysis of the weapon malfunctions, she called to her science officer. "Could this be natural interference?" "Negative, Captain," the officer replied. "The pattern of energy dispersal. It's too consistent, too perfect. This has to be artificial, but we're detecting no energy signatures, no defense systems, nothing that could explain it." In the depths of Deep Harbor, General Chen watched the Catharian fleet's frustration mounting. "They'll either retreat to revise their strategy or commit fully to the attack," he said. "Either way, we've shaken their confidence." Elena nodded, but her attention was focused on a new development. The quantum sensors were detecting massive energy buildups in the Catharian fleet. "They're charging their primary weapons," she reported. far beyond safety protocols. They're going to risk a full power barrage. On the Eternal Dominion, Grand Admiral Vexnor had reached his breaking point. "Deploy the entire fleet," he ordered, his scales now a deep red of rage. "Maximum power to all weapons. I want every square meter of their largest cities targeted. Let's see their mysterious atmospheric interference handle this." As the Catharian fleet moved into position for their all-out assault, humanity's defenders faced a crucial decision: continue the deception and risk catastrophic damage to Earth's cities, or reveal their true capabilities and change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Elena looked to General Chen, waiting for his decision. The quantum defense grid could handle the barrage, but maintaining the illusion of natural interference might not be possible against an attack of this magnitude. "All facilities, stand by for Protocol Zero," the general announced after a moment's hesitation. "It's time to show them why humanity has survived every invasion attempt for the past 50 years. The moment of revelation was at hand, and the galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength lay not in its weapons, but in its patience, cunning, and ability to play a very, very long game. Unveiling. Protocol Zero authorized. General Chen's voice echoed through Deep Harbor's command center. "All facilities. Execute on my mark." Elena's fingers hovered over her quantum interface, ready to implement the commands that would reveal humanity's true technological might. Around the world, in hidden facilities beneath mountains, oceans, and deserts, other operators waited for the same signal. Above, the Catharian fleet had arranged itself into an attack formation that would have been beautiful if it wasn't meant for Earth's destruction. 3,000 warships, their weapons charged beyond safety limits, prepared to rain devastation upon the seemingly defenseless planet below. "For the glory of the Empire," Grand Admiral Vexnor commanded, his scales now a deep crimson of battle fury. "Fire." The sky lit up as thousands of energy weapons discharged simultaneously. The combined power output would have been enough to glass entire continents. But just as the beams were about to enter Earth's atmosphere, General Chen gave the order. "Execute Protocol Zero." Elena and her fellow operators activated their quantum defense systems at full power. This time, there would be no subtle dispersal of energy, no illusion of natural interference. Instead, the quantum grid revealed itself in all its glory. A shimmering barrier of pure quantum energy materialized around Earth, visible to the naked eye for the first time in human history. The Catharian weapons fire splashed against it harmlessly, their energy absorbed and redirected into the quantum foam of space-time itself. On the Eternal Dominion's bridge, stunned silence fell as the impossible sight registered. "What are we seeing?" Vexnor demanded, his scales shifting rapidly between colors of shock and disbelief. Before anyone could respond, new energy signatures began appearing all around Earth. Hidden installations revealed themselves, quantum technology far beyond anything the Catharians had ever encountered becoming visible for the first time. In Deep Harbor, Elena activated the next phase of Protocol Zero. "Transmitting now," she reported to General Chen. The message went out on all frequencies, in perfect Catharian. "This is Earth's Quantum Defense Command to the Catharian fleet. Your weapons are ineffective. Your shields are compromised. Your engines are within our control. The demonstration ends now." To prove their point, quantum fields suddenly appeared around each Catharian vessel, cutting off their power systems as easily as flipping a switch. 3,000 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy hung powerless in space, held in place by forces their sensors couldn't even properly detect. On the Vigilant, Captain Lyra watched with a mixture of vindication and awe. "I knew it," she whispered. "They were never primitive. They were never struggling. They were waiting." A new hologram appeared on every Catharian ship, showing General Chen standing calmly in Deep Harbor's command center. "Grand Admiral Vexnor," he addressed the fleet commander directly, "your empire has a choice to make. The demonstration you've witnessed represents less than 1% of Earth's defensive capabilities. We can destroy your fleet with a thought. Instead, we offer you the opportunity to withdraw and deliver a message to your empire." In the stunned silence that followed, Alina monitored the quantum readings from the Catherian ships. Their crew's life signs showed a mixture of fear, awe, and confusion. Exactly the reaction they had hoped for. What message? Vexnor managed to ask, his proud bearing shaken by the complete reversal of power. "The message is simple," General Chen replied. "Earth is not primitive. Earth is not weak. Earth has never been either of those things. We simply chose to appear that way because we learned long ago that the greatest power lies not in showing your strength, but in choosing when to reveal it." He paused, letting the words sink in. "Your fleet will be allowed to leave with minimal power, enough to return home, but not enough to pose any threat. You will tell your empire what you witnessed here. You will explain that Earth is not to be threatened, invaded, or interfered with. And you will understand that what you saw today was mercy, not weakness." In Deep Harbor, Alina watched as the quantum grid began the careful process of restoring minimal power to the Catherian vessels. The aliens' advanced technology, which had seemed so threatening just hours ago, now appeared almost primitive compared to humanity's quantum manipulation capabilities. "There will be consequences," Vexnor warned, though his tone lacked conviction. "The Empire will not forget this humiliation." "No," General Chen agreed. "They won't. That's precisely what we're counting on. Your empire, and others like it, will finally understand that appearance and reality are not always the same. Earth's policy of technological deception ends today, but our policy of peaceful coexistence through strength begins." As the Catherian fleet slowly retreated, their once proud ships now limping away on minimal power, humanity's defenders allowed themselves to feel the weight of what they had just done. Centuries of careful deception had ended in a single day, and a new chapter in human history was about to begin. "Do you think they'll actually heed the warning?" Alina asked General Chen as they watched the fleet's withdrawal on their quantum sensors. The general's response was interrupted by a priority alert. The quantum grid had detected new energy signatures at the edge of the solar system, ships of unknown origin, watching and waiting. "It doesn't matter if they heed it," he said finally. "The galaxy now knows what we can do. The real question is, what do we do with that knowledge?" A new dawn. 3 months after the Catherian incident, Dr. Elena Santos stood at a podium in the United Nations General Assembly, addressing representatives from every nation on Earth. The quantum defense grid's revelation had changed not just humanity's relationship with alien civilizations, but with itself. "The age of deception is over," she announced, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. "But our greatest challenges and opportunities lie ahead. The galaxy now knows our true capabilities. How we handle this revelation will define humanity's place among the stars for generations to come." Behind her, holographic displays showed the current state of the solar system. Dozens of alien observation ships lurked at its edges, maintaining what they thought was a safe distance. Thanks to the quantum grid, humanity could detect and monitor each one, reading their communications and analyzing their capabilities. In her private office aboard the Vigilant, now permanently stationed near Jupiter as an unofficial embassy, Captain Lyra reviewed the latest reports from the Catherian Empire. The political upheaval following their fleet's humiliation had been substantial. 3 separate factions now vie for power, each with its own vision of how to handle the suddenly formidable Earth. "Another diplomatic request, Captain," her communications officer reported. "The Centaurian Collective wishes to establish formal relations with Earth. They're the 7th species this week." Lyra had chosen to remain behind when her fleet retreated, officially as a diplomatic liaison, but truly because she couldn't resist the opportunity to learn more about the humans who had fooled an entire galaxy. The past months had shown her that humanity's deception went far deeper than anyone had imagined. Deep Harbor had been transformed from a secret facility into humanity's primary center for interstellar relations. General Chen sat in his new office, reviewing proposals from various Earth governments about how to proceed with their newfound openly advanced status. The Quantum Defense Initiative was never just about protection, he explained to a holographic gathering of world leaders. It was about buying time. Time to develop not just our technology, but our wisdom in using it. Elena entered his office as the meeting concluded, carrying new data from the quantum grid. "The void signatures are back," she reported, referring to the mysterious energy patterns they'd detected at the edge of known space. "Whatever's out there, it's not like anything we've seen before." The general nodded gravely. "Perhaps this is why we were guided to develop as we did. The quantum theorists always said there were layers to reality we hadn't yet perceived." He stood and walked to the window, looking out at the Pacific Ocean above. "We fooled the galaxy into thinking we were primitive because we needed time to prepare. Now we have to ask ourselves, what were we preparing for?" In orbit, the International Quantum Station shed its disguise of being a primitive collection of modules, revealing its true form as a masterpiece of human engineering. Similar transformations were happening across Earth as hidden technology was gradually brought into the open, each revelation carefully calculated to maintain stability both on Earth and in the galaxy at large. Captain Lyra watched these changes with fascination. "They're still not showing everything," she observed to her crew. "Even now, they're revealing their advances in careful stages. Old habits, it seems, die hard." She was right. Humanity had learned too well the value of keeping certain capabilities hidden. The quantum grid's public demonstration had shown power enough to humble the Catharian Empire, but Elena, General Chen, and a select few others knew it was capable of far more. In Deep Harbor's quantum research lab, Elena studied the latest readings from the void signatures. The patterns suggested something that challenged even humanity's advanced understanding of physics. "Whatever's coming," she murmured, "I hope we're ready for it." General Chen joined her, looking at the complex quantum data streams. "We've spent centuries pretending to be less than we are," he said. "We've learned patience, strategy, and the value of preparation. If something is coming from beyond known space, those lessons may prove more valuable than any weapon." Above them, Earth continued its serene spin through space, no longer hiding its technological marvels, but still keeping its deepest secrets. The quantum grid hummed with power, watching the stars for any sign of threat or opportunity. Humanity had stepped out of the shadows, but they hadn't forgotten the wisdom that had kept them safe for so long. In her final report to the Catharian Empire, Captain Lyra wrote words that would be studied by species across the galaxy. The humans' greatest achievement was not their technology, but their patience. They could have dominated, but they chose to wait. They could have conquered, but they chose to prepare. And now that they have revealed themselves, one must wonder, what are they preparing for? As new ships arrived daily seeking diplomatic relations, trade agreements, and cultural exchange, humanity faced its greatest challenge yet, balancing their newfound openness with the caution that had served them so well. The age of deception had ended, but the age of wisdom was just beginning. And somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, something stirred, proving that humanity's long game of hide and seek might have been more prescient than anyone could have imagined. The end.